Welcome to this NLD Referee Society training presentation on the use of sanctions, delivered by Mike Mulroy, the Society Training Officer. Throughout this video there will be a number of questions that we ask of you. We'd like you to pause the video at that point, write your answers down, so make sure that you have a pen and paper handy, and then when you're ready just press play to continue. So first bit of work for you is, what is a sanction and how might you use it? Spend a couple of minutes now thinking about that, pause the video and then press play when you're ready. So the dictionary defines a sanction as something that we use as a penalty to punish something, some behaviour, to act as a deterrent to other poor behaviour, and ultimately to control discipline. And you've seen from what you've probably written down that all of those things can be used in order to control discipline, but in all of those little areas as well. Now, as a referee, we have a number of things in our arsenal that we can use to control discipline, to punish, to penalise and to deter people. So spend a couple of minutes now just writing down your ideas as to what they are and how might we use them. When you're ready, again, press play. So some of those things we can use in our arsenal are our voice, and that includes the way we say things as well, and the body language. Our whistle, we can use the penalty sanction, a yellow card or a red card. What I want you to do now is to have a think about how you escalate your sanctions. Where do you start and where ultimately will you finish? And what is the process that you follow? Ultimately, this will depend on what level game you're refereeing, the mood, the temper of the game, and all of those variables. But please just have a think now about what you do and whether you have a standard that you like to keep to. And then, when you're ready, play the video again. Now, one of those things that you will have undoubtedly written down is the warning. And the warning is one of those things that's, you need to be very, very careful about how you use it and when you use it. So when is our warning coming?
So now we're having a very clear fault with you guys. Tackler's not releasing, not getting to the feet or putting hands on the ground. Okay, one against you, one against 13. One against the player there. Okay, we've got to sort that out. Yeah.
So that would be the message all week. Slow.
So there you can see JP Doyle is having quite a friendly chat, but in a way that gets his message across. He outlines exactly what's gone on and where and the players that are involved. Ask yourself, do you do that with your warnings when you're talking to the captains? Can you remember? That's always a good thing to be able to do. So when does that warning come? This largely depends on the level of the game, and we're going to break that down now into three sort of sets for you to have a look at. The first one is levels 10 to 13. That's very much a community game. Very social rugby. The problem with this level is you obviously get some old school players, guys who've played at first 15 level 10 or 15 years ago. They very often don't want to change their ways. They like to get involved if there's a little bit of a fracas as well. You'll find those are the guys that only run when there is a little bit of a dust up. Their skill and fitness level is likely to be very poor. You get players who just want to come out, have 20 minutes every week, and that's it for them. So as a referee in this case, we need to show more empathy to the game and to the players. Allow them to have that game, allow them their enjoyment. Remember our CEL process of safety, enjoyment, learning and laws. We meant to make sure that it's safe, yes, but they get most enjoyment out of it. You also have to be aware of opponent frustration. If things are repeatedly happening and you're not dealing with them because of that level of empathy, if that leads to frustration from the other players, clearly your level is not pitched right for that empathy. So what we want to do is try and bring the players up to your standards and to your level more than you going down to theirs. But in this case, you would certainly be more lenient with certain things. We look at levels 8 and 9, so we are now looking at a mixture of abilities. This is club league rugby, levels 8, level 9, but it could also be a second 15 game that you have of a level 5 or a level 6 side. And that creates problems of its own. Some coaches in this, if it's a first 15 game, they'll be paid at these levels as well. And some players may be pushing for higher clubs, or indeed the club may be pushing for promotion as well. The problem you've got when you've got a level 8 or 9 game that's a second 15 game is that you might have first 15 players who are returning from injury, first 15 players who have been dropped since last week's game and are eager to prove themselves, and also new players that are coming through, maybe from the Colts side at the club, and they are now eager to impress as well. So you have a greater mix of abilities and ranges with these. So how are we going to manage these teams? Well, we show a little more empathy than perhaps we might at the higher level, but not too much at all. We look at the players closely and we look at their skill level. This is where the dynamic fitness and watching what happens in clubs warm-up and team warm-ups is really important. So that you'll know that when they're doing the backs moves, the 13 for the home side cuts a very, very good line and can jink through. That should prepare you for the sort of game that you're going to get, certainly when he has the ball. Again, another good thing, watch the hooker when they're practicing the lineouts. Can he hit his target? Are the throws relatively straight? So if we do our warm-up properly, then we'll also be able to incorporate this. So we look at the players' fitness levels and we work here on a bigger sliding scale so that the things that are disrupting play, particularly we are going to deal with the ones that are less significant, we're going to deal with in a different way. So if we are now offering a level 6 or 7, the highest ends of club rugby within society, just remember, nothing but happens by accident generally. The players will know how to cheat, and very often in cases they will be told to cheat. They may be told, right, do this at the breakdown until he penalises you, and then stop. Other clubs will do it until he penalises you twice. Other clubs have been known to say keep doing it until he yellow cards and then stop it. Because if you're not going to yellow card somebody for repeat offences like that in the first 20 minutes, you're unlikely to do later in the game, and coaches know that is how we work psychologically. So things that they are going to do, they'll know how to slow the ball down. They might be slow to roll away at the breakdown, they may leave their hands on the ball, they may creep up offside, putting their hands on the floor in front of the back foot, making you manage that much harder, just pulling back an opponent as he goes through a gap in support, and cheeky running lines that cut off options for the attacking team. And you must be aware of all of these and the fact that they are going to want to cheat. So when we look at that warning, we have to take into account not just the level, but also where we are on the pitch. I want you to be very careful that you don't make a rod for your own back. Because the minute you say you're going to do something and then you do not follow that through, you look silly and weak. Now, depending where you are, you could just look silly, neither of which is good. So what we're going to do when we're looking at that warning, when we're looking at, we are as referees ready to escalate our sanctions to the warning level, we look at the general pattern and the type of offence. Is it the same type? Is it the same few players? Now, it's no good having a word with a captain when two of them have been accidental offsides and one was just a slow to roll away because he was pinned in. So we need to make sure that we are looking at the right type of offences that are having a material effect on the game. Once you've done that, ask yourself where on the pitch are these happening and what is the actual effect. When you've decided upon that, you need to look at the type of warning that you're going to use. Will a bit more prevention work in your management, or do you need to make a show to everybody to set your stall out? When you're considering all this, always have in the back of your mind the sort of words that you're going to use on this particular warning. So when we look at the areas of the pitch, we look at inside and outside of the 22. Why would the warning be different? Just write down a few things now, pause the video, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, I'm sure that you've written down that it's more acute, that when we're in this area of the pitch, defenders are struggling to prevent line breaks, or they're trying desperately hard to prevent the opposition from scoring, and that can lead to those technical offences, to slow the ball down, to block off the space, and generally become a nuisance. So let's look at that in a bit more detail with our warning now. So outside of the 22, what sort of warning would you give here? Just spend a few minutes now writing down some phrases, some words that you are likely to use. When you're ready, press play again. So some of those words that you might want to use to the captain are, "Captain, your penalty count is starting to rise now," or "Captain, look at the number of penalties we've had recently," or "Captain, that's 4 penalties in the last 3 minutes." It's more of a friendly advice warning here at this stage. Have a chat to your teams, please, about your penalty count. Be specific if it helps them. "Captain, I need your tackler to roll away quicker. That's 4 now in the last 10 minutes. Or, "Captain, get those hands off a bit quicker. Make sure the ball is available. If there's a 9 there waiting to play the ball and he's that slow to move, I might have to increase what I do." They're very specific, but we need to be a little bit more casual in the way we deliver it. Inside the 22, however, let's have a look what we might say here. So your penalty count is rising. Look where you are on the pitch. That's 3 penalties in this area. That's 2 penalties now in the last minute in the 22. So we're being much more specific now. Be very careful in this area of the pitch. "Captain, if this continues, you might leave me very few options." "Captain, go and talk to your team now." So you see that the wording, the manner is very different. It's much more specific inside the 22, and you're alluding to something that might happen, but you're not making that rod for your own back by saying, "Captain, the next time this happens, somebody will go to the bin." Now, there are occasions when you will want to do that, and this is when we come into the very specific warnings. And these can either be towards the team or the individual. So if it's towards the individual, don't talk to that player on their own. Talk through the captain. Have that player there and make eye contact with them every so often as you're talking to the captain. But make sure it is the captain that has the chastising, and it goes through the captain, because you have the relationship with him. If you start talking directly to players in the same way, then you're almost absolving the captain of his responsibility. So make sure the captain is the person that you are going to. "Captain, if this continues, or if this continues in this area of the pitch, I will have no choice but to deal with it differently. You will leave me no choice but to escalate what I am doing. Captain, these are deliberate acts. This is cynical play. And on occasion, Captain, the next one in this area, or the next person in this area, or the next time he is committing an offence in this area, or the next time you slow the ball down in this area, somebody will go to the bin." And these are the extreme ones where your message is very, very clear. But I've put caveats on that. The next one in this area, the next one to do that in this area. so that then if they get the ball legally, they kick it 56 metres, they chase it, and they do exactly the same thing, but in the other half of the pitch. If you then yellow card somebody there because you've given them a specific warning, you're going to look very silly, and if you don't, you look silly and weak because you've not gone through with it. So the key is to take everything into consideration when you are looking at escalating your sanctions, and to give that warning, and just be very careful and be very clear in your own mind what sort of warning, what you want to achieve from it, what you want the teams to achieve, and pick your words very carefully as well. Now, we often hear the term red zone mentioned when it comes to rugby penalties and sanctions. And I want you to think now for a few seconds where you would consider the red zone to be on a pitch. Pause the video, and when you're ready, press play again. So we often hear coaches refer to the red zone as being in the 22. Now, we do look at this as a significant shift in our concentration, in our level, in the way that we escalate things. So we do want you to see a shift in your approach when we cross the 22. But our red zone is going to be, depending on the level, 10 to 15 metres out. It's a scoring opportunity. It's a scoring opportunity generally when people get into the 22, because most people will kick from in the 22 if there is a penalty there. So we have to have that shift, and we have to have another gear shift when we get about 10 to 15 metres from the line. And we've got to keep that focus increasing as we get closer to the line. Now, we said before, nothing happens by accident. And that's certainly true at levels 6 and 7. Now, the still, unfortunately, doesn't show any context. The two blue players there at the ruck were both legal until the red player came in and forced them off their feet in order to stop them competing for the ball. We won't worry about the guys on the other side who are coming in through the side as well. Now, if you're refereeing at level 6 and 7, do not be fooled by the defence or by the attack. This is now the time when you have to stop being lenient, and very many of you who are operating at this level or new at this level and have been assessed will likely see on your reports, don't be so lenient, be harder, don't be too nice. So stop being lenient, but increase your management of the situation as well, because we want to play good advantage. We want to have the clear message to the captain, and we want to allow the non-offending side to get that advantage and to play rugby. What we want you to do now is to also build up your whole mental picture. So what is the score at the time? If it's 20-21 and there's 2 minutes left and the losing side is attacking in the 22 and the defending side is killing the ball and slowing everything down and putting their hands on it, stop being lenient. This is the time when that other side wants to get that scoring opportunity, but don't be fooled by them either. And this is where you've got to really concentrate. You have to focus, you have to look at the ball, but then also look at the players. Remember, the ball has never done anything wrong in rugby, it's the players that do. Deal with cynical play quickly, and be prepared to escalate your sanctions or pull out that immediate yellow card, or even penalty try and yellow card, depending where we are, what we're doing, and how it is affecting the game. Have a look at this clip here and write down all of the things that you see afterwards. Rewind and play it again if you need to, and then pause it while you're writing them down. Press play when you're ready to go through it.
Come
So pause the video and press play when you're ready after you've made any notes. So there's 3 rucks there. The first one, nothing happened. The second one, we've actually got a white player going for the ball quite legitimately. He then gets taken off his feet by somebody counter-rucking, and then they are screaming, black are screaming for him to move out the way. He's making a good effort, whilst 17 is pushing him down and 19 is trying to hold him in. 19 is the player on the floor with his back to the camera. So you've got to be very, very careful that you're not fooled by the attacking player trying to buy that penalty. Now, on the last ruck where the yellow card occurred for white 20, he goes in quite clearly after black players there. So he can't use his hands. He's not allowed to. He then also goes off his feet because he's lying on the player on the ground. He doesn't listen to very, very clear instructions. Slows the ball down, prevents black, who've got good numbers and potentially quick ball. He's slowing the ball down in the red zone, and hence he got the yellow card. Without any escalation, without any warning, it's a very, very clear offence that says, here, you know what you're doing, that's deliberate, you're going for 10 minutes. So let's have a look then at the increase in sanctions to a red or a yellow card. So first of all, just spend a couple of minutes writing down what yellow cards are used for and when we would use them. Pause the video now and then press play when you're ready. So those times that we use a yellow card then, well, look, they're clearly for those technical offences that usually are a result of repeat infringement and those low-level foul plays, things that are more than a penalty. But less than the red card. Obviously, the classic being the high tackle that starts low but rises quite quickly and has some force to it, but doesn't finish there. And obviously, as we just said, the repeat offences. Now that may well be low-level foul play. Repeat offences from a same player. 3 sort of seatbelt tackles might result in that as well. Now, this is part of our escalation process, part of the sanctions. It's the next level up from those warnings, but that you have to be prepared as a referee that sometimes we're going to have that immediate or the one-off where the card comes out without any warning and sometimes without any previous penalty build-up as well or patterns to it. It's also used for intermediate match official abuse as well, that low level thing that's building up, and even when we are escalating sanctions for appealing, which if you watch the video on game management, you'll see some notes on that in there as well. Now, as far as our expectations go, at levels 8 and below, we're not expecting to see a yellow card being issued outside of the 22, the defending 22, for just repeat offences or technical offences. Foul play, absolutely yes. We're talking just the technical or the repeat technical here. At level 8 and below, we're expecting you to try and manage that more, to bring in other parts of your arsenal rather than pulling out the yellow card, because it doesn't look right for that level of game more than anything else. Inside the 22, as we've already discussed, different matter. And of course, as you rise up the levels, you would be expecting to be harsher in terms of your decision making, and it may well be penalty, warning card. But those things, please work directly with your coach depending on your level. So just spend a couple of minutes now thinking what we use red cards for and when we would use them. Pause the video and once you're ready, press play. So obviously we want to use red cards for things like serious foul play, including things like punching, striking, kicking, stamping, dangerous high tackles, tip tackles where they meet the criteria, and of course, as we saw with the yellow card, intermediate match official abuse. This is serious or repeated match official abuse. And of course, the other one is the second yellow card for technical offences as well. Now, a red card throws up, particularly in community rugby, an awful lot of paperwork. We don't report yellow cards below level 5, but we do report all red cards. So this is the time when you need to give yourself some space and the opportunity to get all the information correct. Obviously, if you have somebody helping you, if you're lucky enough to have fourth official and things, it's not so critical. But at your level, you need to have a look at what you're going to gather in terms of information. So spend a couple of minutes now, pause the video and just have a think about the sort of things that you're going to want to write down, and then we'll go through them. Okay, so when we are a red card, there's a few things that we need to look at, and we can break those down into 3 distinct areas. The first one, the incident, the information that we need to gather for that. What exactly happened? Now, do not be fooled into listening to anything else that you hear. You can only write down what you saw. If you saw number 12 white punch number 12 black, then that's what you have to. Even though number 12 white may have blood pouring from his face because something clearly has gone on before, you cannot say what other people are telling you. Make sure that you write, as I turned round, I saw number 12 white with blood all over his face. He then punched number 12 black. They are the facts, and therefore, although what you've seen you can deal with, and clearly if something continues, as it's likely to with those, because you have seen the punch, and if 12 black does nothing more than grapple with the player on the floor afterwards and you only see the grappling, then there is no reason why you can't award a red card there for the punch, which you've clearly seen, and the yellow card because what you saw was a yellow card offence. You can't guess and you can't upgrade at all. So just be very careful. Otherwise, when you get to a disciplinary, you may well have a clever barrister turn up with 19 witness statements, all of whom say at the time that 12 black punched 12 white, which you didn't see. You were talking to another player with your back to him, and you turned around when you heard it, and you then saw only 12 white. And players will get off and cases will be dismissed because of that. So please be very, very careful. You only write down what you see. So you also need to make sure you know where exactly this happened on the pitch, what players were involved, and what caused it, if you saw it. Now, you can speculate a little bit as to what you think caused it, but that must be in consultation with the discipline team within the society before your report goes in, and they will advise you on the best process and the best wording. And if you suspect something, you can put that in the right way and make sure that it is cleared by our team before the report goes in. That way we are making sure that we only deal with facts, and that's the key thing, we deal with facts. So one of the other facts about the incident is where exactly were you? Where were you standing? How far away? So when we look at the player, we need the player's number, the player's position, because it may be a 6 who had gone to number 8 because it's late in the game and there was a replacement, and the player's name. Now, league games, this probably isn't quite so critical simply because of team sheets and GMS reporting, but certainly at the lower levels, I would strongly suggest that you've got the name of the player from the captain as soon as you've dismissed the player, simply because it has been known and will certainly be known in the future for a different player to take the blame and say that was me, because often the referee isn't going to go to the disciplinary. It might be done over telephone, so you may need to make sure you get the right player. If it involved foul play, were there any injuries to any other players? You're certainly going to need to note that. So looking at the game aspect, what time is on the clock? Is it the first or second half? And we use, regardless of whether you use countdown time or count up on your watch, we like you to use the elapsed time, please. So second half, 23 minutes gone. The score at the time and the final score in the game, as well as the type of game. Was it a league, a friendly, a merit game? Were there other appointed officials, so assistant referees, fourth official, that type of thing? And was a video recording made officially or unofficially to your knowledge? Now, in order to get all of that and to process the information, you need to have time. Time to think, time to reflect on what you've actually seen. Don't forget your emotions will be riding high as well. Your adrenaline will be flowing, generally because you've had to sort something out. Where there has been foul play, people will be probably still involved in the scuffle, and you have probably had to get involved as well. Let's have a look at this situation. Obviously he's got an assistant referee, but just look how he's taking time, he's not running in, he's giving himself a good wide view. When it all starts to break up, blows his whistle just to reiterate.
Just give me a chance, just give me a moment, just give me a moment, just step away.
Very good management there not to get involved straight away. He needs to create some time and space for himself. So make sure that you stay calm in any situation like this. Once things have settled down, move all the players away. White, go beyond the 10-metre line. Blue, go beyond the halfway. Give yourself some time. Create a gap between the players that dissolves all that tension. It also means there's no tension on you. Get loads of space, because as soon as you turn away from them and present your back to them, it's very, very hard for people to argue with you. In very much the same way, you might be 6 metres away from a sideline where the crowd is, and you blow for a penalty there, and undoubtedly some people will cheer, some people will moan at you. But if you turn your back to the sideline there and face into the pitch, it's difficult for people to keep coming at you. You are away from where those comments are. You're also facing away. You can't make eye contact with them. It diffuses the situation. Now, obviously, he's got an assistant referee here that he goes and consults. And whether that be the case or not, there are a few principles that you need to follow. Find a neutral place, somewhere safe in ground where you're not close to either of the team. When you're ready, and only when you are ready, make sure you get all of the facts and information first. Bring the captains to you. Give them a clear and concise explanation of what went on, and explain the consequences if it happens again, regardless of what you're doing now, what you're going to do in the future. So in this case, you'll see when we play the video what he says and how he says he's going to deal with it later on, and then you get the captain's buy-in, get their agreement as well.
Captain. Look, between the two of us, we had a pretty good view of it. It's pushes and shoves. There's no clear punches or knees. But clearly there's something, cooking here. So are you guys happy if I escalate quickly with that? If that happens again, are you happy if I be very, very strict on that?
The pen will happen.
Yeah.
See, it's a bit ran in and took
Look,
out
what I'm saying is, if it happens again, if I'm very tough on whoever started that, you happy with that? Initial penalty is for number 8, jumping across and sabotaging the ball.
So you were happy with what happened in the air?
So you see how we got the captain's buy-in, the captain's agreement towards the end. If that happens again, I'm not going to treat it like this. I'm going to escalate. I'm going to deal with it more harshly. So they are the sort of things that you need to be aware of. Now, sometimes we have to sell our decisions. Don't forget, we are only looking for the clear, the obvious, the material, and when it comes to sanctions, the expected. And that's where those immediate yellow cards and one-offs can come from. So when we sign our decisions, we sometimes need that captain's buy-in, don't we? We need the players to be able to go, yeah, I agree, and I see where you're going, and I need to change behaviour. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to use this increase in sanctions as a deterrent to change behaviour. So be open, be approachable, be friendly at this point in the beginning, but be in control. Look at the body language. Here, the referee is talking to Joe Marler very nicely. They're having a little bit of banter, maybe a good friendly chat, but it's getting that buy-in, that psychological agreement, that almost camaraderie that says, yeah, I know what you mean, and I'm on top of it. Sometimes, however, everybody needs to know who is at fault, and this is the way you give the big show. This is where you would point at a player, call out his number, show his number using your fingers, whatever it may well be, with a very big secondary signal. These are for the more cynical offences, the foul play, or those that are dangerous. So the big arm up in the air, point to the player, verbalise what the issue is, and then really big secondary signal to sell it as well. And that shows everybody that this is a big number. This is something quite important, and you not rolling away. And this may well be when you've had a number of rucks whereby the ball has been coming quite slowly, and you've done several management solutions, or at least attempted them. You've done lots of preemptive and preventative communication, and now bang, whistle goes, arm up in the air, you not rolling away, and you do the big secondary signal. And again, number 4, not rolling away. 5th time this has happened, 3rd time this has happened, whatever it may well be. So just make sure that you have the buy-in when you need the buy-in, and the big show when you need the big show as well.
Thank you, Maurice.
Have a look at this one.
Scott.
Look at the words he
Number 3
uses
Rebels.
and the way he does it.
Just Romania. And number 3 Sharks. So first of all, if there's a tussle, no one of your players is allowed to join in. Luckily, those guys are safe for now, but I will not have it for the rest of the game. If there's a tussle, you stop. If there's a whistle, you stop. No one to join. That's the first message. The second one is he did a first strike to the opponent's head. It was an open hand to the head, so he's going off. I don't care what it was. It was to opponent's head. You're going off with a yellow. He did repeatedly punch a player after that. I'm gonna send him off with a red card.
A red card?
Yes. You're off with a yellow. And this is his face repeatedly.
So Laurie Weeks, who was on the bench last week, into the starting lineup this week in place of Paul Allo-Emile, who...
So look just how calm the referee was
for this fixture. Yanni Duplessis gets 10 minutes in the bin. He was acting out of frustration with that open-handed slap. There you go. He was... I don't know quite what happened before that, which brought the slap about, but Laurie Weeks has gone at least 3 punches that have landed. Here's another one. Almost...
So, referee throughout that was very, very calm. He separates the players, separates the team, and then he takes his time to gather his thoughts and the facts. Obviously, he's got the advantage of a TMO and assistant referees, and that's how this came about, because he wasn't there to see it at the time, because these were 2 players who were coming back to the next phase, and the referee was with the ball. If however you see it, this is the way you deal with it. So he calls over the captains and the players. He speaks through the captain to each one of those. He's got the relationship with the captain's got the relationship with the players. Keep that foremost in your mind, because the minute you take that relationship with the player onto your own shoulders, you're absolving the captain of his responsibility and you're taking too much on. He deals with the minor issues first, which is really good, because we always want to finish on the final message being the tougher one. So there, look, if there's any players getting involved again, if there's a tussle after something, I'll deal with it differently. They're safe for now. That's a really good message. That's one of those friendly warnings. They're safe for now, but I don't want it happening again. The next thing he did is he moved up the scale. So he did the yellow card for what started it, the open hand to the head, and which of course was never a push. And he then did the red card. What I'd like to see NLD referees do is, if that was the situation, you deal with that low level one first, the warning. Then you go yellow. You go onto the yellow card. That it was an open hand to the head. That's 10 minutes, and issue the yellow card and let the player go away before you turn to the other captain. That was then followed up by numerous punches or repeat punches to the head and the face, and that is no option. I'm sending him off with a red card, and then you do the red card separately rather than having the two, because both of them will walk off together in the situation you've just watched, and what you don't want is for that fight to escalate on the way. So let one go first and let the other one go second. That's the way we would like you as NLD referees to deal with it in the future. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a few little scenarios now, and what I'd like you to do is to watch them and then pause the video. Decide what happened. Decide what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Difficult if you're on your own, but I'd like you to then role play this. I'd like you to use the word, stand in front of a mirror if you want. If there's a couple of you together, or get together with somebody of your same level, same experience, watch this part of the video together and practice on each other, so that one of you is playing the role of the referee, one of you is playing the role of the captain, and one of you is playing the players that are involved. Now, some of these may be a bit difficult to see first of all, so we do have some different shots and slow-mos to help you as well. Assume, please, because there are a couple that the camera is the best angle, not the referee. Assume that all of these you will have seen from the angles of the camera. So you've seen it as the camera has. How would you deal with it?
Come through the middle here.
So I don't know whether you saw that very well, so we'll watch that one from different angles.
Claim it with Rocco. And then Clever comes flying in, and this could be yellow or red. It's at least yellow. It's at least yellow.
Scott, can you walk away? Yeah.
Now, I don't want you to walk over if you've got an assistant referee, to talk to him instead of dealing with the scuffle afterwards. That particular referee also, which I haven't included on the video, says to his assistant, unless you've got anything different, this is what I'm doing. So I don't want you to do that if you do have assistant referees, and if you're part of that team of three, obviously you will have undergone some team of three training, and we'll practice those conversations before you get appointed to those sort of games. But what I'd like you to think about here is, as a referee on your own, what would you do and how you would say it. So pause the video and spend a few minutes thinking of that and practicing it yourself. So from our point of view, we would want to see you stop that, finish, get everybody away, buy yourself some time and stay nice and calm. Bring the captain over and the white player involved. And the conversation might go something like this. Captain, we've got a very clear late and high tackle from your player. It's a straight arm as well. It's started high, it's with force, and it's stayed high. Therefore, he's ticked all the boxes for a red card. I have no option but to send this player off, show the red card, and away you go. If you got anything other than a red card there, then please rewatch that and think about it. This is probably one where we're not going to debate between yellow and red. If you have any particular issues, obviously, please get in touch. We can talk through this particular scenario. You can do so by emailing us nldreftraining@gmail.com. So scenario number 2, again, have a look at these, please.
In the game, but one good kick and a decent kick chase, and Exeter are now 30 yards away from Saracens' try line.
This is Ollie Atkins, Australian in his second season with the club.
Thanks, Al.
Not started much in the Premiership recently. Oh, that is a high tackle.
Oh dear.
Come here, please. Stand.
Oh dear.
So very difficult to see from that angle. Obviously the referee's a lot closer and saw it, but let's see it from the other angles for your benefit.
But this is it here, Jeff Parlin, really good carry. It's a swinging arm.
And Barrington coming in.
Dear me. They could both be in trouble now. I guess Barrington's only mitigating factor is that Brad is...
when they're not in control and they can't guarantee.
So again, please pause the video and have a couple of moments to gather your thoughts and practice how you would approach this with the captain and the players involved. When you're ready, please press play again and we'll go through. So how did you handle that? Let's see what the referee did at the time, with the benefit of the TMO as well.
There may well be Chiefs fans watching this, wondering...
Initial is high by yourself.
Yeah. Why there
What
aren't
is
two
then
reds.
clear on the footage is the shoulder direct to the head at force. That leaves me with a little option. This guy is sent from the field to play. It's a red card. Direct contact with the shoulder to the head of the player on the floor. That's a red card. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's the saddest of endings to Richard Barrington's 100th game for Saracens. He has been within 10 minutes,
To the head.
and for the first time in 2017, the new redefined head-high regulations seen in all their glory. He's gone.
Well, that's exactly the point, Nick. There's no malice in that. He is obviously devastated. He's just as devastated that Jeff Parling's still lying prostrate on the field.
Okay, so we've probably got a difference of opinion here, and there was a difference of opinion after this particular game when it went to review and went to citing as well. So think about what you've got, and I'll go through the way we probably look at that. First of all, the initial tackle was the problem. So let's follow the new World Rugby framework for high tackle sanctions. The arm is outstretched, it is high, it is always high, and it stayed high. There is direct contact with the neck from the first tackler that stays there, and it is with some force as well. Is there any mitigation of the player ducking? No, certainly not low enough. And whilst it's not a deliberate act by any stretch looking at it, it does tick the boxes to start at red card and stay at red card as well. So in this instance, we would want to see you issue a red card to the initial tackler. The question then comes as to what do we do with the second Saracens player who comes in and who makes contact with the head with his shoulder. Now, clearly in this situation, with the benefit of the TMO, and I know you won't have this benefit at your levels, but with the benefit of the TMO, and assuming we saw it at the same place that the TMO did, then what we're looking at is a tackle that actually happens a couple of meters further towards the tackler than he expected. So his arm is still out towards the back, thinking that he's going to be tackling him probably 2 meters further on. Therefore, according to World Rugby new framework on the high tackle sanctions, he is leading with the shoulder. So that hits red card straight away. However, is there mitigation? In this case, yes. The player was lower than expected because of the first tackler, who we've already sent off. And that tackle was a couple of meters closer than the second tackler anticipated because of that first tackler. So there are options here which I think you would be justified as a solo referee on the pitch in making. The first one is that you've already red carded the first tackler. and you red card the second tackler because of the direct contact with the head from his shoulder and his arm being backwards rather than forwards. So that's a shoulder charge rather than a tackle. However, mitigation, that happens closer than he anticipates, and the player is being brought down by another tackler. So that's where we could look at a yellow card for the second one. So if you went red and red in that situation, certainly you would be backed up by society, and if you went red yellow in that situation, I think that that's probably a very good outcome in which you would be backed up by society as well. So a couple of options there, but certainly not as clear cut as some of the others. Okay, so let's have a look at scenario. If he's going for that penalty try, then he needs to do that. Straight away. So in this case, he comes back for the penalty. If you're coming back just for penalty because of that, because you've allowed play to go on and it's not right to do the penalty try, are you going to yellow card the Welsh player? Hopefully you've said yes, and you are going to at least yellow card the Welsh player, putting 2 in the bin, because that was a very deliberate, cynical action in order to slow down the play, because there was an overlap on the right hand side and England almost scored. If you've only gone for penalty, please watch it again and look at why we would see an increase in sanction there to a yellow card without any warning to be the right course of action. If, however, you've seen that and the ball is slow and you've got your head up looking at the bigger picture, at that point it's not a bad policy to take a moment's breath, and before you blow for the penalty because England knocked on, consider at that time the yellow card, or even several seconds before, because the actions of the red player deliberately slowed down the ball when there was a try scoring opportunity and White had got a clear line break. So in that situation, for me, the best referees would have noticed that and would have gone under the sticks in straight away and then yellow carded the tackler for not rolling away. And England would not have needed to go right whether they scored or not. Okay, let's have a look at one more scenario. Oh, we've got 2 more scenarios actually. So let's look at James Haskell again. Let's look at scenario number 5.
Chasing this is Jason. That's a big killer.
So I'm sure you saw that, but let's have a look at it from other angles for you. So slow-mo does make things look worse, but look at the point of contact, and that's what I want you to look at before you do your role play. Okay, so take a few moments, gather your thoughts, and role play this with the captain and the player. I know there we've got the white captain as well. In these situations, you do not need the defending captain, the one who's not at fault. You need the other captain, so and the player. So please just spare a few moments going through those. Okay, so in this situation we would take the player and the captain away, and the explanation would go something along the lines of, Captain, we've got a player attempting to catch the ball in the air. Your player has come in, he's not left the ground properly, he's not in a position to compete for the ball, not only has he taken away the space of the player in the air, and therefore taken away his legs, that player has also landed very dangerously. He's landed on his head and neck, and therefore it ticks all the boxes for a red card. I have no option but to send this player off. One of the things you noticed earlier on when the referee said that, this choice of words is very clever. It ticks all the box for a red card. I have no option but to. And these are great because it takes the pressure off you as a referee. It takes that focus away and puts it back into the law is the focus here. But one of the things we saw earlier was the referee say, "I'm sorry, I don't want to see you apologise for issuing any sort of card. You are not the one that has committed the offence, the player is, so you are not sorry at all. And you shouldn't say that." Equally, as we saw in one of the other clips, the referee touching the player on the shoulder and things, I don't want to see that either. Okay, let's look at another clip then. Okay, let's have a look at this last scenario.
A bit cold out there on the wing for Tom Varndell since he came on. Hodgson. It's meant for Cueto. It could be anybody's, and you worry for Cueto. And he's lost it now with Tuilangi. He's fed up, and I don't blame him. And now the punches are raining in, and it's a free-for-all as both sides try and protect their players. Mark Cueto was taken high by Tuilangi. He then suffered from Billy's high tackle too, and he felt that he was taken out in the air by Alassana Tuilangi in a dangerous way. This game is boiled right over.
Okay, clearly there's a lot going on there, and apologies for the quality of the video. Let's have a look at it again. Okay, so what I want you to do is, again, take a few minutes, pause the video, get your thoughts together, role play it, and then press play again. So let's deal with the first thing first. Now, the tackle. There's a little bit of mitigation right at the beginning because the England player catching the ball is in the air. He jumps to catch the ball to a point. There's a little suggestion that he's trying to jump through a potential tackle. However, there's not enough suggestion, and therefore Tuilangi here has taken the legs away from a player in the air. It's his responsibility that that player comes down safely. The player lands on his head, and therefore it meets all of the criteria for a red card. The subsequent actions where you see the England player coming in who's not involved, and this is one of the keys, the player that starts punching is not the player who has been aggrieved. Therefore, he has come in and started the fight, and we've got clear evidence of punches to the face as well. So in this case, I hope we have brought the Tuilangi from Samoa and the England player as well as their captains, and we've got the initial offence is taking out the player in the air. The player has landed badly on his neck and his head, because if he goes arm first and then the next thing is the head or the neck, we take the arms away. What would he have landed on without the arms there? So that's a red card, and clearly you've taken the law into your own hands. You've come in from some distance, you've started the subsequent fight, and there are clear punches as well from you, and you're going with a red card as well. And I think the thing in this situation is definitely the double red card for both of those players. So if you remember back a little while ago, we talked about the clear, obvious and expected. And we also talked about the immediate and the one-off. Now, these are those situations whereby we are expecting a yellow card straight away without that gradual increase in sanctions that goes through penalty to maybe friendly warning to more specific warning to a yellow card. Now, when that happens, we're looking at two things really. First of all, foul play. So things like the tip tackle, where they land badly, but not badly enough and not ticking all the boxes for the red card. Similarly, the high tackle for dangerous play, taking players out in the air, as we've just seen, depending on how they land, and potentially dangerous play at the line out as well, climbing and all those sorts of things. Then there's the serious technical that will get you to that immediate yellow card. Cynical play in the red zone, as we've seen in some of our situations earlier on, preventing a try from being scored, repeat offences where a warning has already been given, where a penalty try is awarded, of course, we always really want to have that yellow card, and potentially repeat scrum issues as well. And those are the occasions where we would pull the yellow card out without going through the escalation process. So in summary, then, I suppose a few key points for you to take away today. Consider the level of game before you consider how you are going to deal with things. Set yourself a standard depending again on the level of game and the type of players. Differentiate between the offences that are occurring. Are they all technical? Are they foul play? Are some of them those throwaway technical ones, knock on in front of an offside? Work with your captains, give them the responsibility and take the monkey off your back and put it firmly on theirs. Ask yourself, where are we on the pitch? Be careful with your warnings. Be careful of the words that you use and the way that you use them. Things like, I want you to, means that, well, you don't have to, it's just I want you to. But words like you need to are very, very different. They're very specific, and it also puts the responsibility on somebody else and takes it off your shoulders. Think about whether you need to go through the captain to issue your cards or whether it's just one of those one-offs that you pull it out because everybody knows what they've done. And those are those expected decisions that need no explanations. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it's taught you something. As always, if you have any questions, please email us at nldreftraining@gmail.com.